When our Dread River journey began in early 2017, no one on our team had any experience starting a business, let alone a distillery. It was simply a skill we didn't have. To bridge that gap, to learn the technical aspects of distillation, as well as the finer points of running a sound business, we began reaching out to distilleries across the country seeking advice, to learn from their experience. We found this business to be more open and collegial than we could have hoped for, and we made friends and learned tricks on every step of our journey. For that reason, it has always been important for us to pay forward the efforts of our friends who did so much to help us. We have always looked to hire and elevate people who represent the ethos of our business, driven, passionate, team-oriented, even if their resumes were as thin as ours had been. Earlier this year, we received a resume that, while in no sense thin, was completely unlike any we had received before. The man applying was interested in learning how to distill as he began his long path of retiring from the military, where, for the past 20 years, he had been employed as a U.S. Air Force combat controller.
The Skill Bridge is the Department of Defense's way to provide military members an opportunity to integrate within the civilian sector, the job marketplace. And so what happens is an active duty member decides, I want to get into Skill Bridge, what they have to do, and they're still in the military. They're essentially put on loan from the military, whatever branch they're in, whether, say, the Air Force. They're put on loan from the Air Force for about 4 to 6 months. And once they feel like it's a good marriage, that civilian company will bring the military member on while they're still in the military and help them integrate successfully into civilian life.
With a long-established reverence for the military, it quickly became clear that not only would Trey be a hugely valuable addition to our Dread River team, but that our team could learn as much from him as he would learn from us.
Well, with the Skill Bridge program, I was hesitant at first because, number one, it was new. It was new to us. I had never heard of anything such. I was thinking free labor, they come for 6 months, fantastic. Sign me up. As I started to get some more information about the program, I realized the weight it carried. This is someone's life.
I think he and I have both shared some of the growing pains of coming from that environment into the civilian world and doing these jobs that there's not a regulation or rule book for. It's pretty cool to go through those growing pains with him together, but also just try to find a sense of comfort in knowing that, like, I've been out here a little bit longer than he has, but we're still transitioning because you never really take the uniform off.
It was kind of awesome to have him with me because there was a beginning phase of like, let's figure this out together. We were kind of like a team on that, and it was cool to have someone else in my spot and we can kind of work through these problems and figure them out together.
My primary experience with what CCT does and his background and his role that he served in was in the 101st Combat Aviation Brigade as part of an Apache helicopter team.
TACPs, we worked with them on deployment a lot. They rolled out with us every time. They were always great dudes, very professional. Loved working with them.
I didn't know anything about combat control. I thought like special forces meant you were a SEAL. Like that was my knowledge, you know what I mean? I didn't know anything of it, so.
I did not know anything about CCT when Trey started. I did my Google search and then I was like, oh, we're dealing with the badass.
I will personally say that I don't mind it, I actually like it. No one having any clue what a combat controller is, it kind of brings a smile on my face. If they ask me if I feel inclined to tell them what I do, and I tell them I'm a combat controller, usually what I get is a blank stare. Bourbon's always been in my blood. Bourbon's always been something that's kind of captivated me, and I love the finer principles of it. I love the science of it. I love the artisanal fact of it. And we were taking a weekend retreat, some of the guys on my team at my unit, and we went up to the Buffalo Trace distillery in Frankfort, Kentucky. For me, as I was embarking on getting out and deciding what do I want to do, what can I do, and seeing, some of the guys that were in the distillery and just, knowing the impact they were having on the community, the things that they were making, the products that they were making, I felt like that was something that really had a calling to me, and right then and there, seeing all that, I knew that that was my sense of purpose after the military. What ended up happening was I stumbled upon Dread River and your guys' ethos of adventure, curiosity, getting out there and just doing the damn thing. Really resonated really well with me, and I thought, I have to drive an hour and a half to go there, but they're worth it. And so that's how this marriage has happened.
I know our role here is to be a teacher, but I keep going back to all the things we can learn from Trey. Discipline, teamwork, leadership, perspective. So when I asked him to make sure a little bit of his old career rubs off on his new one, he tells me he can do me one better.
If you decide you want to go into the combat control pipeline, the length doesn't change. It's 2 years, no less than. It can be longer. If you're lucky, you get 2 years, and that's the least amount that you can do, and it's hard. 90 to 95% of the people who try out for combat control don't make it, and that's just basic facts about it. So when you decide you want to be a combat controller, the first thing that you're going to do is a course called Special Warfare Candidate Course. And it's physically, mentally, emotionally grueling. And anywhere from calisthenics, weight training, swimming, running, some sort of high intensity interval training you're doing every day from the time you wake up at 4 in the morning to the time that you get done at around 6 in the evening. That's what you're doing for 11 weeks. Then you move on to pre-scuba. Immediately following pre-scuba, they go to Air Force Combat Dive. Basic Airborne course, Military Free Fall School, SEER School, Air Traffic Control School, Combat Control School. If they can make that, they will earn their Scarlet Red Beret and become a combat controller. But it's not done. They still have another year at advanced skills training down at Hurlburt Field, Florida, at Special Tactics Training Squadron.
While Trey learns from us, he ships me off to Hurlburt Field in Fort Walton, Florida, to learn from the men and women who mold controllers. Often underappreciated in the special warfare community and largely unknown to the population at large, Trey wants me to learn what it's like to be and become a CCT. And while I played football at Auburn, which is no walk in the park, this is a whole different ballgame. In fact, I quickly learned it's no game at all.
So to become a combat controller, it's a 2+ year process. So a lot of those, the training that we do, it sets the baseline and then it ramps up so that when you're in a firefight, for example, or in a situation where things are very stressful or you're very, task saturated, those baseline tasks are kind of second nature. You don't have to think about and can execute without hindering the mission. And so when we attach these other special operations teams that have been doing this together, we can kind of blend in and pick up some of those roles and some of those mission sets right alongside them in some of the toughest environments and situations.
Given the vast array of potential mission requirements, it becomes clear to me that these men, like all Special Forces operators, must be in peak combat-ready physical condition at all times, as they are deployable around the world at a moment's notice. Learning about the regimen that CCT teams keep, I'm reminded of that of a professional athlete. For years, I've wondered how my own experience in football, for example, compares to boot camp or high-level military training. As if on cue, I recognize a familiar face. Joey Caldwell and I were teammates at Auburn and haven't seen each other in more than a decade.
As the head strength coach for the 2-3 STS, my main responsibility is to get these guys ready and to keep them ready. So a lot of what we do is strength-based training. Strength is very important for the job in itself. So getting those guys prepared for the recovery aspects of what they've done in the past, and also just building up that strength base day in and day out to be prepared for work. When athletes are coming in, ground-based power is always going to be important. Training, leg drive, being able to handle external load, master that load. Grip is very important as well. And then overall mobility, flexibility when it comes to being able to repeat an action. It's always good to be able to go through full range of motion through certain movements and just continue to stack positives when it comes to the weight room. I'm really big on working around injuries, not through them, but also not becoming your injury. The only way to get that area better is to lean on the resources that are here. Like there's a physical therapist here, there's athletic trainers, there's doctors. So the more information I can get from the operator as well as the professionals at hand, we can really focus on what in the program that person can do. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. The weight room should be used to build up strength and consistency to be able to repeat that high level skill work, whatever that is. Understanding how each training modality affects the body is a big reason why these guys start doing it, because if they see the benefit of it, they'll start adding it into their battle rhythm. I just know what kind of impact that has from a sports standpoint, and I know that has carryover in this field as well. And a win's a win no matter where it is, right? So I just love seeing that kind of stuff, and being able to work with this population is always going to be special to me.
After talking with Joey, I gained a small degree of the perspective I was looking for. However, Chris is quick to remind me that an elite level of fitness is simply the standard, the starting line. What makes a CCT different, special, is the wide variety of proficiencies they develop and maintain on a daily basis.
A lot of the mission sets and a lot of the capabilities that we provide or offer, there's a broad spectrum between diving, shooting, jumping, vehicles, communications, everything. So it's a double-edged sword. It's great that we offer all those things, but it's also difficult to maintain currency and proficiency in all those things. So that's definitely a challenge.
The biggest misconception that I can think of is being like, they jump out of airplanes, they do air traffic control. I think that's the biggest misconception. Is while that is fairly true, there is some of that we do. We're so much vastly more than just that.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions even within the soft community of what combat control is. I feel like a lot of times half of my job is explaining what my job is to some of the other entities out there.
The real perspective I've gained is that the men of Gold Team, Red Team, Blue Team, all CCT, are among the best trained, most highly competent warriors in the world.
If I'm going into Afghanistan with a mountain team, a Green Beret mountain team, then I need to focus a little more on high altitude training. I need to focus a little more on mountainous work. The guys who are joint terminal attack controllers, they have to maintain proficiency on controlling aircraft and close air support. And everybody has to maintain proficiency on air traffic control. Everybody has to maintain proficiency on how to set up an airfield. It doesn't end after the pipeline. When you get to an operational squadron, you're still training. You're still trying to meet quotas to keep proficiency with all your qualifications. So one week might be a shooting week, next week might be free fall week, another week after that maybe close air support week where you're just focusing on JTAC stuff.
We go to the range over and over and over again. Just because you get a JTAC rating doesn't mean that you're done, doesn't mean that you're done learning. So there's a lot of still sharpening those skills, learning new techniques and tactics so that when you're in that situation when the bullets are flying or when lives are on the line, you're able to act.
What the Dome does is it provides a really good experience for the controller himself to get his procedures down, to get his processes down. And underneath the Dome, it kind of looks like that. But it doesn't do it justice. It doesn't, as the aircraft flies over, it looks kind of fake. And the way the munitions drop off the aircraft just doesn't equate to what you're seeing in real life. It does pale in comparison. It's not the real thing.
Nellis Air Force Base is known throughout the world as the home of the fighter pilot. This is where the real Top Gun occurs, and it's called the U.S. Air Force Fighter Weapons School. It is for the elite, the tip of the spear, the best of the best. However, weapons school, as I learned, is not just for pilots.
So here at the JTAC Weapons School, we have both TACPs and CCTs, and so what they do is they take the best instructors, whether it's a TACP or a CCT, the best of Air Force Special Warfare, and they bring them here to Nellis, and we teach them how to be a better, well-rounded, more knowledgeable JTAC that is able to focus on the future fight. Trey was one of my first supervisors. He put me through JTAC training. He showed me the ropes of how to be a team guy, how to be a team player, and how to be calm when things get a little bit weird.
Before I know it hit me, I'm 45 minutes north of Las Vegas in a souped-up dune buggy, speeding into the desert, dangerously close to those areas you're not allowed to talk about. Today's training mission will evaluate a CCT student as he calls in close air support from A-10s and MQ-9 Reaper drones.
A-10s are back. No just for the MQ-9s. They killed the 3 T-72s. This is still your priority.
This is not a simulator. And the ammunition is real. The staccato crack of machine gun fire, the deafening whine of jet engines, plumes of smoke and shrapnel, the pungent smell of gunpowder lingering in the air. The mind doesn't have to wander far to imagine this scene on a real-world battlefield. This is, as promised, the real deal. My stomach in knots, I look at Trey and see he is right at home. So effective are Jeff and his team that they have completed their mission with ordnance to spare. To honor his friend and former instructor, Jeff unplugs his radio and hands it to Trey, allowing him one final control, the last of his 20-year career.
Okay.
Hawk 01, Striker 3-1, out of your reach.
Striker 3-1, Hawk 01, ladder play.
There is an almost ceremonial reverence as Trey calls in the jets one final time. Trey rattles off his last 9 line.
Correct. 1, 9, 4.
Rifle, cleared Hawk, cleared Hawk, cleared Hawk.
And the weapons find their targets with the surgical precision expected from a veteran CCT. As the jets return to base, they offer one final salute to Master Sergeant Bruner's service.
Being able to be out there on the range and give him the experience of his last and final control before retirement, I know it was special for him, but it was extra special for me.
For him to spring that on me and to experience that with him, knowing that it's kind of come full circle, was a really cool moment for him and I to share. To be able to see the aircraft fly that low one last time was super cool, and then realizing, oh my gosh, this is the final one. I'll never do this again. It brought me to tears, man. You guys couldn't see it because I was underneath sunglasses, but I was a little teared up, man. It got pretty emotional, and so that moment was super awesome.
As we leave Las Vegas, Trey tells me that one of the major misconceptions about CCT is that because they do their work on the radio, they are somehow removed from the fight, which couldn't be further from the truth, as I have now seen firsthand. He tells me that CCT are so frequently on the front lines of a conflict, deployed so far forward, that the community has adopted the phrase, "first there," to encapsulate what it means to be a CCT. He then tells me about Eric Homan, a former CCT, and his work with the First There Foundation, which supports CCT members, active duty and retired, as well as their families, and members who have given the ultimate sacrifice.
You put every special operator out there in the world, and you put them into a ball, and you get one combat controller. The ability to decimate an enemy in seconds is unmatched. There's no one out there that can do what we do. We've been around in every major firefight, known and unknown to the American people, and we've saved hundreds of operators, and we've killed thousands of enemy fighters, but no one knows who we are. That's crazy to me.
Of the 11 Air Force crosses in the global war on terrorism since post 9/11, 11 special tactics operators have been awarded the Air Force Cross, which is one down from the Medal of Honor. 8 of those have been awarded to combat controllers. And we have one combat controller who's been awarded the Medal of Honor. And during his battle, his actions actually deserve 2 Medals of Honor. His name is Master Sergeant John Chapman, and he was a huge hero of mine, and he's a huge hero of most of combat controllers that know about him.
For a while when I left the teams, I don't know why, but it was just like I was burying a guy every year. You know, my buddy Forrest, Chris, Andrew, Marty. It was just like, I would tell people, I feel like death is riding shotgun with me in the car all the time. When Chris killed himself, I remember thinking, okay, I gotta do something. People need to know who we are. We need to look after each other, and there's nothing out there right now that's doing that for us. And that's what I wanted for this foundation. I wanted to take care of the guys and our families, and then kind of do something like this where we can talk about combat control and what we've given to our country.
It is impossible not to be impressed by the men of the CCT community. And, to be honest, it's humbling to spend time around them. They are the definition of warrior elite, and they walk a walk they rarely ever talk about. Trey and his teammates have given so much to us, not only at Dread River, but as citizens of a free and prosperous country, and we are fortunate to now be a small part of their story.
You know, to go from what I've gone to do, at no point did I think of myself as this otherworldly individual that, you know, deserves crazy recognition. I don't, you know, I've never done anything truly heroic. I've never done anything truly remarkable. So to leave CCT, I feel humbled and grateful to be a part of members of special operations that were just giants to me. I'm so fortunate that I got to be a part and live in their shadows and just be with amazing human beings. And in the same light, coming into distilling, thinking like I know everything, I don't, and it's been humbling. And so that would be the biggest thing of it all, I'd say, is, you know, you're never above it, and you got to take each experience with a humbling perspective, and I've certainly gotten it since I've been here.
Next exercise be memorial push-up. Memorial push-up to ya. This is exercise, move.